Welcome to Beyond the Lecture, a show that takes listeners beyond the Lifelong Learning Program's lecture series alongside the LLP's program coordinator, Elizabeth Appell-Sheets, and I, broadcast journalism and media production double major Nolan Duncan, as we speak with the lecture speakers as they go into more depth about the topics they discussed. Welcome back, listeners. Today we are talking with an expert about the cybersecurity program and the cybersecurity building. Would you like to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm John Sammons. I'm a professor and the associate director of the Marshall Institute for Cybersecurity.
Okay, Professor Sammons, thank you so much for joining us today. We know, you gave a presentation to Marshall's Lifelong Learning Program, and so we're following up with a podcast. And so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about your presentation, maybe delve deeper into some areas, if that's okay. One of the things that, my first question is, can you tell us briefly about the background of the Cybersecurity Center, how it's coming into being on Marshall's campus? Where did this start, and where are we with it?
Well, it started out with a generous donation or appropriation, I should say, by the state for $45 million, and that happened a couple of years ago.
Wow. And
that was definitely the catalyst for the construction and design of it. Construction just started, I guess, about 3 weeks ago. So we're in the very early stages, but things are definitely moving, and they're moving as fast as they can. So we're very anxious to get those doors open as fast as we can.
Well, thank you for that. And rather than ask you to tell me again about what's going to be on every floor, I know every floor is going to have its own purpose. I just have a couple of questions as to what the cybersecurity, the types of things that you will be undertaking. And one of them that caught my attention was human trafficking. Human trafficking, as we understand, is like an Underground Railroad type scenario, which is not a good thing. Can you tell me how the Cybersecurity Center will handle that, or what plans you have for this area?
Sure. One of the features in the new building is going to be we're calling it the Cyber Threat Intelligence Center. And right now we've got an ongoing open source intelligence laboratory, and we've been doing that for probably 8 to 10 years. And over the years, we've had a lot of different clients, if you will, that our students have been able to work for, including NASA, several law enforcement agencies. And one of those was a global nonprofit called Operation Underground Railroad. What their mission is basically to fight human trafficking, especially with children. We were doing a lot of open source intelligence analysis for them, and our students would do the open source intelligence collection and analysis and then generate a report, which would go back to the operators in the field that were doing the actual rescue of these children. And according to OUR, our students helped uncover information that led to the rescue of over 80 kids and the arrest of, I think, 32 traffickers.
Oh my goodness, that's phenomenal to hear.
It was a great experience. The students actually loved it, and it was a great cause, and that kind of thing. So we're looking forward to hopefully continuing that kind of thing as well, expanding that into cyber threat intelligence as well, and some other things. So we've also done a lot of. You may have remembered probably I think it's 5 or 6 years ago we got some money from the federal government for working with the Department of Homeland Security, doing things on some dark web work for them. So we'll also be continuing with dark web stuff as well.
It almost sounds like as soon as this building is completed, you're going to be full of work to do. There's almost like you're going to be bursting at the seams. There's so much this building is going to do and undertake for this area and nationally, and maybe even beyond.
Absolutely. We definitely see the impact of this facility growing well beyond the borders of the city, the state, the region. It's definitely going to have some national impact, we think, and we're going to do our best. Absolutely.
I think it's going to be so exciting.
We're talking about all this cool stuff that it's going to happen. How do you see, specifically through the cybersecurity building, through this new building and these new resources, how do you see this making Marshall's cybersecurity program stand out from other cybersecurity programs, not just in West Virginia, but throughout the country?
Oh, great question. I love that one. I love getting this one a lot, actually. So one of the things, since it's the very inception of our program that we've strived to make it very different, it's what we call practitioner focused. So it's not, we don't confuse ourselves with software engineers. We're not them. It's a very important job, but we have other folks here that do that, right? So we are here to train the next cybersecurity analyst, the next cybersecurity engineer that's doing the actual job in the field. Those kind of folks, the practitioners, they're going to fill that. Right now, there are hundreds of thousands of unfilled jobs in cyber every year. There is simply not enough people to fill the openings, right? So we are trying to fill that void with as many qualified graduates as we can. So our job is to teach people how to use science and technology to solve investigative and cybersecurity problems.
That actually segues into my next question. So glad you brought that up. You spoke about careers in cybersecurity, and one thing that you stated is this new center will be game-changing for Marshall, that we will have a spike in student enrollment. And your question is, can we keep up with it? Can you talk a little bit about what you foresee happening with student enrollment with this program?
We've already seen a massive spike in the enrollment in the last couple of years. So I think once the building starts to be raised and the awareness is raised, and we're actively engaged in a lot of outreach. So we have our cyber experience with high school students where we bring them in for half a day, and they get to kind of get a little bit of a taste of what the program is actually like. We go out and we do a lot of it. We're starting a new program called the Cyber Ambassador Program, where we're going to recruit middle and high school teachers to help represent the cyber discipline and explain how so they can help us recruit students into not only the program but also the profession. And we're going to help those teachers teach cyber skills in the high schools and middle schools. And we also have a cyber safety summit where we bring in, last time we ran it, we had almost 3,000 middle school kids in the camp center.
Wow.
For that. So we're actively recruiting the students, and I think this is not going to be hard to get those. Well, I don't want to say that. I don't get overconfident with it, but I'm confident that the program is going to continue to grow.
Oh, I think without a doubt. I think because this is a, I don't know if it's a new program of cybersecurity, but it's certainly up and coming.
Is there anything within Marshall's cybersecurity program that Marshall is offering, that Marshall has as part of the degree program, that you're not seeing and that you think other universities should maybe include or focus more on?
Well, one of the things that makes us unique is that we have our undergraduate degree, for example, is cyber forensics and security. So the curriculum is basically split half between forensics and half on cybersecurity. So the way we describe it is we try to graduate Swiss Army knives, to where when they graduate from Marshall, they've got skills to work in a lot of different places. So what tends to happen is as they go through the program, students tend to think, well, yeah, I like this particular area better than another. But when they get into the workforce, that may change, and the workforce may change. So it enables them to have more mobility and more employability in the workforce.
Which leads me to another question that's a newer type thing, is artificial intelligence. So you touched a little bit about the role with the Cybersecurity Center, and you stated that's scary and powerful at the same time from U.S. perspective, and that AI will be huge in this center. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit? Yeah,
I mean, AI is going to is touching everything in everything that we're going to be doing, and you can see that by the massive adoption of AI across almost every discipline out there, right? So it's a double-edged sword. It helps the attacker and the defender. Mm-hmm. So what one of the things, for example, that where you worry about is getting to where they're attacking at what's called machine speed, where the attacks are happening, hundreds of thousands or millions of times a second, and that kind of thing. So it can quickly overwhelm and empower defenders or attackers in a lot of different ways. Well, it can also empower the defenders. So it's just it's another thing that we have to keep up with. And it's going to evolve just like everything does in cyber. It evolves all the time. So we've got to keep pace with that. So we're definitely keeping an eye on that and absolutely could be involved in that kind of thing.
which is where your malware lab will come into play.
Could be because, what you're also seeing is that another concern with AI is its ability to generate malware, extremely rapidly, which can cut down. If you can generate malware, with the machine, it makes it much faster, cheaper to produce, right? So there's a lot of things that can do.
That leads into a question I had, because that specific segment of the lecture actually was very interesting to me. I wouldn't say I'm like pro or anti-AI, more leaning towards anti-AI, but I've always been fascinated with like how it's employed and whatnot. And so, you talked about using it for people to make malware. What other ways do you see AI being employed within both, offense and defense in terms of cybersecurity?
Well, one of the things happening now are like deep fakes. Is the ability to, those kinds of things are creating havoc all over the place where you really don't know, where the public can no longer trust what they're seeing with their own eyes. So those kind of information operations can be devastating. And we're seeing that today. And then you see things like making child sexual abuse material that's generated through, the power of AI. And for example, there you've got a problem because it takes a long time for the law to catch up with what's reality. You know what I mean? So the way the law is written, you may not be able to prosecute an offender that has those kinds of images. And is that even illegal? If it's not an actual child, there's no victim, so is that a crime? So there's lots of questions that society has to wrestle with and the lawmakers have to wrestle with. It's just a huge, massive problem to solve. And then you've got I'm sorry, could you ask me that question one more time? I went off on that.
Yeah. What other ways do you see AI being employed in cybersecurity in terms of, just like the, offense and defense?
Well, on the defense side, definitely detection and analysis, right? So because even today you're seeing, organizations attacked thousands of times a second, right? So it depends. Right now there are different. Right now it takes a person, by and large, to do a lot of the analytic, the deep analytical work. So the more that can be automated, the faster that can happen. And one of the things you want to worry about in a cyber attack is isolating it. Once you realize there's been malware executed on a machine, for example, you want to limit the number of machines that's impacted, right? So you want to first segment that network to where you're not all connected and there's no firewall between different areas, but then you want to make sure that you detect that as fast as you possibly can to be able to isolate the event, if that makes sense.
I want to elaborate on the AI just for a second. One of the, and I may be segueing away from what you just said, but it all ties together, I believe. AI and teens, that teens are looking to AI to talk to confide in, and it's becoming a problem because they're not talking to a human being that can have empathy and sympathy for them. Can you touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, it's kind of scary. I mean, I've done some testing just using my classes, for example, where I was trying to see how well it would perform doing some practical exercises for simulating a student testifying in court, or a student acting as the investigator and the AI acting as the suspect for like an interview or interrogation, see how the interaction would play out. I was very impressed with how well that the AI could carry on a conversation. And it was pretty amazing.
Is that considered bot activity where a computer takes on human type? As I just looked it up, it's an automated software program. Some of these AI programs that teens are reaching out and
like a chatbot.
Yes, a chatbot. Mm-hmm. Yes. I didn't say it correctly, and I think that's a huge concern. And will your center help with these types of I think it's a threat to young people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's possible. One of the things, there's so many. You could close your eyes and spin around and throw a dart and hit a cyber problem any direction you want to go. Right. So one of the other things we've got to do is focus on and find our niche and be able to do. There's so many things we could do. We've got to work on narrowing our lane down, if that makes sense. So there's going to be some of the things that we're going to address, and some things we're going to pass to others.
Because you can't possibly do it all.
Correct.
It's just
100%.
It's just so larger than any of us can really comprehend.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I've been seeing a lot of articles specifically about, these deep fake images. I saw an article recently where she was either a middle schooler or high schooler. She got expelled from school because she beat up a boy because he had made deep fake CSAM material of her. And so I guess my question is, do you think cybersecurity specialists need to start focusing on how to not just react to AI and, AI material, but how to, because it's mainly older people on Facebook, but, I look on Facebook and I see all these people, they'll look, and even younger people like me are getting fooled by AI now. Do you think there needs to be a focus on like being able to tell, truly tell and somehow go into the system and find out like what is AI and what is real?
Sure, 100%. And that's one of the challenges we have right now in forensics is being able to prove what's AI and what's not. And proving it in court is a bigger challenge. Do you know what I mean? So we're right now, that's one of the things that's also under development are tools to do the detection of AI generated imagery and those kinds of things. So that is a constant. One of the big things that happens in forensics is basically an arms race between the commercial people that produce the technology, like to develop the AI or develop the products like the iPhone or whatever else. They, like Apple, for example, goes out of their way, and rightfully so, to do all they can to protect a customer's data on the phone. Well, forensically, when we have a search warrant, have a valid reason to get into it, that makes it harder for us.
You can't.
Yeah, so it's a hard problem because it's one that we've not solved yet, and there definitely needs to be more attention paid to that. Absolutely, the problem is going to be is resource, because right now the tool sets, image and video is not my wheelhouse normally, but the tools are an issue to be able to detect it, and then also the resources of the amount of people that are focusing on the problem is a problem, because there are other things. There's so few folks working on this, it gets overwhelming, if that makes sense. So those things may fall through the cracks. Unfortunately, and that's definitely a problem, but it's a resource issue.
So I kind of want to take a moment to look. I'm looking at a paper with the information on your career and background. And so my big question is, it's saying here, you've worked for the Huntington Police, you've taught at Marshall for many years. And so I guess, of course, AI is going to be a part of this answer in some way. But how have you seen cybersecurity grown? And what are alongside AI, what are the other areas of concern that you think the world of cybersecurity needs to focus on, instead of just like risking putting all their chips into worrying about AI?
Well, yeah, I mean it's one of the problems is people. It's still it's a resource issue. We just don't have enough people to do what needs to be done, and a lot of this depends on the politicians to commit the resources in the federal government, for example. So that this current administration has decided to cut a lot of cybersecurity positions out of the government. So what that means then is the security burden is then shifted over to the private industry. So now you have people at J.P. Morgan Chase basically doing battle with the People's Liberation Army from China. So you've got military assets against, a commercial business in the United States. So it can be a huge problem if you're in charge of one of those organizations. It's a massive problem. So people, I think, is the biggest problem we've got in producing those folks, into that pipeline is what I would say over the year. That's been a problem pretty much since day one.
I have a question. Another area you touched on was drone trace, and you stated and you kind of explained to us how drones were changing modern warfare. Could you just talk about that for just a little bit?
Sure. One of the big problems right now that in Ukraine, you guys have all, I'm sure, seen that on the news, or drones has really changed modern warfare, and every modern army is now scrambling to develop that capability. And one of the bigger problems is getting actionable intelligence out of an enemy drone once it's brought to the ground or recovered, right? So forensically, what tends to happen is that's forensical things are usually done in labs with elaborate tools in a very controlled environment. Well, obviously, that's not combat, right? That's not war. War zones are chaotic and dirty and messy and all those things. And also, there's a huge time crunch. So there's not a lot of you need that information as fast as you can possibly get it in order for that information to have any value. So what Drone Trace is working on, the problem of trying to extract actionable intelligence out of that drone in minutes rather than days or weeks, because right now those drones have to be sent to a lab, and that lab, it takes probably 5, 6, 7 weeks to be able to extract that data and get it back, and that simply doesn't work in a combat situation. That information is now worthless, basically. So they're trying to solve that problem of getting that information out of there much faster.
One other area you talked about, which I think is kind of ties into what we're doing here, you're going to have a recording studio. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have podcasts, and you're going to have micro-credentials, and you're going to produce things in-house. Could you touch on that?
Sure, absolutely. One of the things that we want to work with partners and be able to help, again, our mission, we're highly focused on filling that workforce gap,
yes.
right? So it's our job to educate.
Yes.
And so the podcasting and the micro-credentialing and the academic courses and all those things are all designed and intended to get more practitioners into the field.
And I actually think you will, because I think micro-credentialing is kind of a great way to get skills, to learn skills. And I think that cybersecurity it's just so broad, and I think it's going to attract a lot of people to this to our area, to your center, and to the topic of cybersecurity, especially like you said, how it can help in the workforce.
Absolutely, cyber. What a lot of folks don't realize is cyber is a huge tent, and a lot of folks think that you have to be highly technical and have to be able to program and code in your sleep and those kinds of things, and that is definitely not the case. There are jobs that require no technical skills almost in cyber, right? So, for example, let's say in a network intrusion, if you work at, let's say, Acme Inc., and you've got 30,000 employees and you're a publicly traded business, right? So you've got a lot of different things that are going to come into play if you expose customer data, for example, that incident response for that. You're going to have communications people. You're going to have legal people. You'll have to have HR people. So that team is going to be comprised of people that are definitely not just the folks that put hands on keyboards and understand technology. So it's a big tent, and everybody is needed, and there's room for everybody. And one of the other initiatives we're taking here at the university is we're trying to expand cyber into the other colleges, because there are cyber-related things that we can do with almost everybody here. So we're trying to be the facilitator and the resource to help folks that want to add cyber content to their courses, add micro-credentials. We can do everything from guest lectures to help develop courses, those kinds of things. We're here as a resource to the university community as a whole. And so we would very much like to engage with everybody we can.
I think you're going to do that more. One other topic, very quickly, you talked about was OT, operational technology. The threats with that. Can you touch on that very briefly?
Sure. Everybody, I think, is by this time has heard heard about IT, right? That's information technology. What a lot of folks don't know about is OT, or operational technology. And basically, what OT does is control all of the systems that run the power grid, that control manufacturing, that control the pipelines, any kind of manufacturing or industrial process. There are devices called PLCs, or programmable logic controllers, or SCADA devices, which is supervisory control and data acquisition, I think is the name of that. Those kinds of devices run these things, and they are vulnerable. And the scary thing about OT versus IT is that if you have a problem in IT, you can't print. If there's a problem with OT, something may explode, because these devices are controlling an industrial process, such as a chemical plant, where if somebody gets control of a certain process and is able to make something cook at a higher temperature, you may cause some overpressure thing and explode the whole thing and release some poison gas. Yep. So you can everything from train wrecks to power outages, you name it. It's an OT problem, and that's one of the main things we're going to be focusing on over there in the ICS. Is that exact problem?
So, as I understand it, it is going to be a state-of-the-art building in architecture and in the process of what it's going to accomplish, 4 floors, 73,000 square feet, and it's going to be, as I just said, state-of-the-art. And within all this state-of-the-art, we're going to have a restaurant.
Absolutely.
We're going to have an area that will draw students in, draw the community in. The restaurant will be open to the community, will it not?
Absolutely.
Okay. If you want to talk about that and just give a wrap up of your thoughts on the center, because in my perspective, it's going to be just, like I said, game changing, state of the art for Huntington, West Virginia, and for Marshall University.
Well, absolutely. We're super excited about the restaurant. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be. I'm not sure if we've released the name of it yet, though.
I think it has been.
I don't want to get ahead of that. But it's going to be another thing to help keep students in the building and help us collaborate. One of the things that we've been working with the architects since day one is to build a space where people want to collaborate and gather and work on these serious problems and keep people there. There's going to be activity in that building all day and into the night, right? There's going to be a lot of activity there, so we're looking to draw people in there, not just faculty and researchers and students, but partners from industry and government that are going to be drawn into the district. We're going to be part of the idea district down there, and it's going to be a lot of collaboration with other folks. We're going to try to get into the district as well. So it's not going to be just the ICS building. There'll be Marshall Advanced Manufacturing, where we work with those folks, because that's an OT problem, right? So those folks that's a major problem. If somebody gets control of one of those devices, somebody could get really hurt. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of space in there designed to keep students in the building and working with faculty and collaborating and make it a fun, comfortable learning environment that everybody will really enjoy and gravitate to.
I guess my question is, you mentioned that little restaurant thing's also going to be open to the wider community. What is the value in allowing the community that access to the cybersecurity building, especially if let's just say Billy Bob, who works over, who works just at some little office firm. What is the value of them just being able to come in and to this building that is very much doesn't really scream restaurant, just to grab a bite?
Sure, I think if nothing else, it raises the level of awareness, right? To where that cyber is everybody's problem, and where people don't understand a lot of times too is it's not. Everybody thinks, well, I'm just little old me. My computer, my phone was not a target. Why would the Chinese want to hack my phone or the Russians hack my computer? Well, they absolutely do, because for lots of different reasons. Cyber is everybody's job. It's our own contribution to the security of the nation, right? So we want to raise the level of awareness, and then I think it brings in folks to where, hey, I think my son or my daughter or my niece, my nephew could get into this as a career. So it's if nothing else, it's raising the level of awareness. So I also want to make sure that there are levels in the building that will be more secure than others. So it's not that everybody's going to be able to wander around in there. I don't want to leave that impression either, because we will have some things happening in there that are going to be more secure than others. But we definitely want to schedule tours and all those kinds of things. So we want to show off the building, 100%.
Do you have any? So I guess I'm just going to make this a running question for every interview going forward. Last time we asked Dr. Mersman about, her recommended readings. Are there any readings or other academic material that you would recommend if people are interested in learning more about cybersecurity and the world of it, and, maybe not who may not know where to go? Gosh,
if I'd had this in advance, I'd have had a huge list. It's not a problem. I read a ton. Trying to think, there's so many good books out there. Sandworm is a great book if you want to really get an idea of what the Russian capability is and what the power of malware can be. It's a great deep dive. It's accessible to everybody. It's not written in a super technical way to where the general audience can get something from it. So I'd recommend that one for sure.
Well, thank you for this. Your presentation was spellbinding, and I think I keep saying state of the art, but what a great thing that we're going to have on Marshall's campus.
It's going to be amazing. We started out in a 12-room lab, 12-seat
Amazing.
lab in Moore Library, and then we're going to end up with this. It's just unbelievable.
And the program is so the academic program is growing daily, and you expect it to expand even more with this program. So cybersecurity is here, and I believe it's the wave of the future as well.
Yeah, it touches everything that we do.
We'd like to thank our guest once again for joining us to share a deeper understanding of their lecture topic. If you're as hungry for knowledge as we are and want to hear other interviews or even previous lectures from the LLP, check out the LLP on YouTube at Marshall University Lifelong Learning Program. And if you want to learn more about the Lifelong Learning Program and how to join, check out their website at marshall.edu/LLP. I'm Nolan Duncan, and you've been listening to Beyond the Lecture. Have a great day.